step into the midnight world of Vesper thorn, where sorcery intertwines with a mortal hunger, and a single spell can shift the balance of darkness. In this video, we uncover the forbidden magic crafted by the vampire, which, a being born of blood, shadow, and ancient lunar secrets. From enchantments that command the night to rituals whispered through crimson mist, Vesper thorn's powers are as deadly as they are mesmerizing. Prepare to explore her origins, her most feared spells, and the terrifying price of wielding magic fueled by the undead. Welcome to a tale where witchcraft meets vampiric destiny. The second spell, Bloodlet Flame. The second spell of Vesper thorn's forbidden grimoire, Bloodlet Flame, is revered and feared in equal measure. It is not merely a spell. It is the ignition of one's life force, an alchemical metamorphosis that fuses witch fire with vampiric hunger. To wield it is to hold a flame that should never exist. Half living, half dead, always burning, always feeding. Those who have mastered it speak of a fire that pulses like a heart and bleeds like a wound. Those who failed to control it left behind only ashes that whispered their names long after their deaths. And those who dared to study it from afar swear that even its description stains their blood with an unfamiliar heat. Bloodlet Flame marks the second step in the ancient path of the vampire witch, and unlike the first spell, Shadow Sanguine Sight, this one does not merely reveal truth. It remakes the body, reshapes the soul, and awakens the dormant hunger that lies coiled within all practitioners who walk the boundary between magic and undeath. To understand Bloodlet Flame, one must begin with the origins of fire in the nocturnal arts, for this spell is the forbidden union of two incompatible forces: witch fire, born from soulcraft and elemental will, and blood fire, born from vampiric thirst and the eternal hunger that shapes their immortality. The origin of the Bloodlet Flame. Long before the creation of Vesper thorn's codex, the witches of the Red Moon Coven practiced a form of elemental fire magic that was unlike anything in the mortal world. Their fire did not burn physical matter alone. It consumed memory, emotion, even destiny. This arcane flame could be used to erase guilt, purify curses, and reshape the threads of fate. But it lacked stability. It flickered unpredictably, and its wielder had to tether it with a strong, steady soul. Meanwhile, in the shadows of ruined kingdoms, ancient vampires uncovered a secret of their own. When a vampire feeds, the consumed life essence briefly ignites inside them as a metaphysical spark. They called this phenomenon the blood fire glimmer, a momentary flare that marked the collision of mortal vitality with a mortal hunger. It was not magic, not yet, but it was a raw, primordial force with immense potential. The first creature to witness both witch fire and blood fire glimmer was Vesper thorn herself, the progenitor of the vampire witch lineage. She realized that if one could fuse the luminous volatility of witch fire with the existential intensity of vampiric hunger, they could create a flame that fed upon both life and death, a flame that did not extinguish, but evolved. And so, after years of experimentation, sacrifice, and near-death calamities, she forged the second spell of her dark codex, Bloodlet Flame, the fire that bleeds. The nature of the Bloodlet Flame, a fire that lives. To the untrained eye, Bloodlet Flame may look like crimson fire, but its true nature is more complicated. Each flame is composed of three intertwined essences: embered blood, the vampiric hunger converted into fuel; soul spark flame, the witch's elemental spark that shapes and directs it; nocturne breath, a stabilizing shadow vapor that prevents the flame from consuming its wielder. These three components must be perfectly balanced. If even one falters, the flame collapses, or worse, turns on the caster. Practitioners describe the flame as hot without heat, bright without light, alive without life. It is an anomaly of existence, something that should not be, yet undeniably is. The Bloodlet Flame does not burn flesh by temperature. Instead, it consumes vital essence, the metaphysical energy that defines existence. For vampires, this means the flame feeds on the echoes of the lives they have taken. For witches, it feeds on the memories and emotions they have bound into their spellcraft. In this way, The flame is both a weapon and a ledger of one's soul. Every flicker reveals a truth: how much you have taken, how much you have lost, and how much you are willing to sacrifice. The ritual of ignition. Creating bloodlit flame requires a ritual known as ignition of the Forsaken Heart, a ceremony that marks a witch's transition deeper into vampire witch territory. The ritual is divided into 4 stages. 1. The Bloodmark Offering. The caster must offer a drop of their blood onto an obsidian shard. This blood is not sacrificed in pain, but in acceptance. The shard absorbs the essence and binds it with the witch's soul signature, preparing it as a conduit. 2. The Nocturne Inhalation. The witch breathes in a cloud of shadow vapor distilled from moonless nights. This vapor, known as nocturne breath, stabilizes their pulse and synchronizes the mortal rhythm with the immortal hunger hidden within. 3. The Ember Spark Chant. A series of syllables written in first tongue, older than magic itself, is spoken. These words reshape the blood's nature, turning it from life's essence into embers of potential fire. 4. The Heart Kindle Moment. The witch must compress all their emotional intensity, love, hatred, sorrow, hope, into a single focused point within their chest. When released, this surge ignites the blood embers, producing the first flicker of bloodlit flame. If the witch hesitates, the ritual collapses. If their emotions waver, the flame consumes them. Only those with unwavering resolve can complete the Heart Kindle Moment. Those who succeed are forever changed. The powers of bloodlit flame. The bloodlit flame grants formidable abilities, each one amplifying the hybrid nature of the caster. 1. Soul Burn. The flame can burn away memories or emotions from a target, leaving them hollow or purified depending on the caster's intent. This makes it both a tool of torment and healing. 2. Lifebleed Strike. The witch can launch the flame like a whip or bolt, draining vitality from enemies. The life taken becomes fuel for the flame, allowing it to grow brighter and stronger. 3. Burning Veil. By draping themselves in the flame, the caster becomes almost impossible to physically strike. Weapons that approach are repelled or weakened, their essence scorched away. 4. Pulse Fire Animation. The witch can infuse objects or even corpses with bloodlit flame. Animate. The dangers of bloodlit flame. Bloodlit flame may be mighty, but it carries grave risks. 1. Essence depletion. If the caster uses too much flame without feeding it external energy, their own vitality becomes a fuel. Many witches who overtaxed themselves became ash within minutes. 2. Hunger overgrowth. If the vampiric component of the flame outweighs the witch fire core, the flame becomes feral. It seeks blood indiscriminately, turning the caster into a vessel of predatory fire. 3. Soul Scorch. Using the flame to erase memories or emotions leaves metaphysical scars. If used excessively, the caster may lose pieces of themselves as payment. 4. Heart Kindle Fracture. The emotional compression required to ignite the flame can destabilize the caster's psyche. Many practitioners suffer mood swings, hallucinations, or uncontrollable grief. 5. Eternal Burn. A rare but catastrophic consequence. If the flame becomes untethered, it does not extinguish. Instead, it burns in the caster's heart until they perish, sometimes taking entire covens with them. Vesper thorn's use of the bloodlit flame. Vesper thorn was the first to survive, master, and weaponize bloodlit flame. According to legend, she used it in the War of the Duskfed, when the vampire legions sought to enslave all witches who practiced nightbound magic. During the siege of Hollowthorn Keep, she stood alone against an army of crimson-eyed immortals. Witnesses claim that her bloodlit flame grew so powerful that it carved rivers of molten shadow through the stone floor. Every vampire who charged her was burned not to dust, but to memoryless oblivion, their existence erased from the world. But even she could not wield it endlessly. After the battle, her flame dimmed, her heart weakened, and she vanished into the obsidian wilds for 23 years to recover. Her mastery proved the spell's full potential, but also its nearly fatal price. Why the spell is the second, not the first? You might ask, Why does Vesper thorn make this the second spell in her grimoire rather than its grand finale? Because bloodlet flame is a threshold, the point where one ceases to be merely a witch or merely a vampire. It requires the foundation of the first spell, shadow sanguine sight, to perceive the metaphysical structures that the flame will manipulate. Without that perception, the flame is blind, chaotic, and doomed to devour its bearer. In the Codex's progression, bloodlet flame represents the practitioner's crossing into irreversible transformation. Once the second spell is mastered, the caster becomes something new, neither fully mortal nor fully nightborn. The place of bloodlet flame in the path of the vampire witch. Every practitioner of Vesper thorn's path must eventually face the second spell. For some, it becomes a loyal companion, a guardian flame that responds to their will with affectionate intensity. For others, it becomes a curse that haunts their every breath. Through mastering bloodlet flame, the witch learns how to balance hunger and discipline, how to shape fire not through heat but through will, how to wield power that consumes the wielder, how to embrace both light and shadow without becoming enslaved to either. In essence, the second spell teaches the most fundamental truth of the vampire witch. Power is not possessed, it is bargained with, and every flame has a price. Conclusion: the living fire that defines a nightbound soul. Bloodlet flame is the heartbeat of the vampire witch path. It is the fire that burns without burning, the hunger that nourishes as it devours, the spell that transforms its wielder from a seeker of night magic into its master. To invoke bloodlet flame is to ignite one's own destiny. To command it is to embrace the paradox of life and death entwined. And to survive. The Vampire Witch Queen. The legend of the Vampire Witch Queen is one of the most feared, complex, and misunderstood chronicles in the history of nocturnal magic. She is the singular figure who stands at the crossroads of two incompatible bloodlines, witchcraft and vampirism, each a discipline with its own cosmic laws, taboos, and spiritual boundaries. To fully understand her, one must ascend into older worlds, into the ancestral covens that shaped her, the forbidden rituals that transformed her, and the kingdom of shadows that rose under her rule. Her existence is a paradox. To witches, she is a betrayal of the sacred laws of life and nature. To vampires, she is a living prophecy, a queen forged from the fusion of moon-born magic and immortal blood. And to mortals, she is a myth used to explain night terrors that walk with intelligence, strategy, and purpose. But to understand why she earned the title Vampire Witch Queen, we must return to the time before her coronation, when she was simply Lorantha, the witch who defied fate. Birth of a forbidden hybrid. Lorantha belonged to an ancient coven known as the Circulus Noctis, a sisterhood whose magic drew its power from the moon's darkest phases. These witches specialized in shadow weaving, fate binding, and blood scrying, forms of magic considered dangerous because they tamper with threads of destiny. Even among them, Lorantha was extraordinary. Born under a lunar eclipse and blessed with a double aura, an omen of greatness, the coven believed she would be their next high seer. But omens rarely tell the full story. During her youth, Lorantha became fascinated with the nocturnal world beyond the coven's warded borders. She claimed the shadows spoke to her, whispering of realms untouched by witchcraft, realms ruled by creatures who drank moonlight distilled through blood. Her curiosity intensified when she found a forbidden text known as the Crimson Grimoire, rumored to be penned by a vampire sorcerer who had once infiltrated the witch circles. This forbidden grimoire described a prophecy. A child born of the eclipse, gifted in shadow, would become the bridge between life-born magic and death-born immortality. The leaders of the Circulus Noctis dismissed it as dangerous fiction, yet Lorantha felt unmistakably drawn to it. She began experimenting with rituals forbidden by witch law, spells that required a drop of her own blood, something her coven taught must never be shed willingly. Every time she did, she felt a strange duality awaken inside her, an echo of a power that should not exist within a mortal body. Her destiny accelerated the night. She wandered beyond the coven's borders and encountered the Night Sovereign, an ancient vampire king wounded from hunters' traps. Instead of fleeing, Lorantha healed him using shadow magic, a gesture that would change both their worlds. The king sensed in her something vampires had not seen in centuries, a witch whose aura resonated with the same darkness that flows through vampire blood. In gratitude and in fascination, he offered her a gift: vampire blood, potent and ancient, capable of transforming her into something neither world had ever seen. Lorantha accepted. The transformation nearly killed her. Her witch aura fought fiercely against the vampiric infection, resulting in a week-long ritual of blood, moonlight, and magic. But when she emerged, she was no longer merely Lorantha the witch. Her blood had rewritten itself into a hybrid essence, binding together the immortal hunger of vampires and the cosmic sensitivity of witches. She was the first and only of her kind. 2. The rise of the queen. Hybrid beings were forbidden. The Circulus Noctis declared her an abomination, a violation of nature's laws. The vampire clans, however, interpreted her existence differently. Their ancient prophecies spoke of a queen of shadow and blood, one who would unite night-born creatures and wield magic untouched by either race. Though she never sought a throne, Lorantha quickly became a figure of immense power. Her magic evolved rapidly. Vampirism sharpened her spellcasting, allowing her to channel blood as a magical conduit. Witchcraft gave her control over her vampiric urges, granting her mental clarity no vampire could match. She could walk among mortals, witches, and vampires and sense the energies within them. She could cast spells without incantations, using mere intention shaped through blood resonance. And most unsettling of all, she could survive sunlight, not perfectly, but long enough to render her nearly unstoppable. As her reputation spread, vampire clans rallied around her, believing she was destined to unite them under one rule. Witch clans feared her ability to disrupt the natural order, for her hybrid magic could bypass many barriers that protected covens. The tipping point came when the Circulus Noctis attempted to hunt and execute her. The vampire king she once saved rallied his forces in retaliation. The battle that followed, the Nightfall Siege, is remembered as one of the bloodiest in nocturnal history. Witch wards cracked beneath Lorantha's hybrid magic, and vampires fought with ferocity inspired by her presence. But she did not fight to massacre her former coven. Instead, she sought to prove a point. The night did not belong to witches alone, nor to vampires alone, but to all who embraced its power. When the dust settled, the witches conceded. They could not defeat what they could not understand. And so, Lorantha ascended as the vampire witch queen, a ruler acknowledged by both worlds, willingly or begrudgingly. 3. The powers of the vampire witch queen. Her hybrid nature granted her abilities unseen in either lineage. These powers can be divided into 3 categories: witch-born, vampire-born, and hybrid anomalies. 1. Witch-born abilities. Even before her transformation, Lorantha was a prodigious witch. After the hybridization, her witchcraft deepened in startling ways. Shadow weaving. She can manipulate shadows as physical extensions of herself, binding enemies, spying across distances, or shielding herself from harm. Blood scrying. By tasting a single drop of someone's blood, she can read their memories, emotional imprints, and potential future paths. Lunar convergence. During eclipses, her magic amplifies exponentially, allowing her to cast spells that alter fate threads or disrupt coven wards. Spirit bending. She can summon ancestral spirits, but unlike witches, she can also bind them. 2. Vampire-born abilities. Her vampiric gifts give her the predatory advantages expected of the undead, but strengthened by her magical sensitivity. Augmented immortality. Her body heals faster than any vampire, and her undeath is stabilized by her witch aura. Nightbound presence. Her aura can command or intimidate lesser vampires by instinct alone. Sun tolerance. While not immune to sunlight, she can endure it long enough to fight or escape. Crimson sight. She sees the world in layers of energy, blood flow, and life force signatures. 3. Hybrid anomalies. These powers exist in no other creature. Blood spell fusion. She can combine arcane spells with vampire blood magic, creating hybrid effects such as resurrecting fallen warriors temporarily or binding vampiric essence to a spell. Aura duality. She possesses a witch aura and a vampire aura simultaneously, allowing her to manipulate both living energies and undead forces. Heart of Eclipse. Her heart functions as both living tissue and undead core. It pumps blood only when she draws on witch magic, and stops when she shifts into full vampire instinct. Queen's Call, a mental command that can summon, calm, or compel night creatures, vampires, shadow spirits, dark familiars, within an entire region. None could rival her, none could predict her, and none could ignore her. 4. The Reign of the Vampire Witch Queen. Upon claiming her title, Lorantha formed the Umbral Court, a council consisting of both witches and vampires who pledged themselves to her vision, a unified nocturnal kingdom. She established a capital known as Umbralith, a fortress city built where night seemed eternally thick. It lay between witch territories and vampire dominions, a reminder that her rule bridged two worlds. Under her reign, centuries-long hostilities softened. Witches began learning controlled forms of blood magic. Vampires adopted rituals honoring lunar cycles. New hybrid spells emerged, melding the steady precision of witchcraft with the raw potency of vampirism. But peace came with a cost. Her unified kingdom threatened existing powers. Some witch factions believed she was corrupting nature's balance. Some vampire clans resented her rule, believing no queen, hybrid or not, should command ancient bloodlines. Rogue hunters sought to slay her, claiming she represented the ultimate abomination. The queen met these threats with calculated mercy or necessary brutality. She spared those who could be reasoned with and destroyed those who sought to shatter the delicate balance she maintained. Her reign became known as the Eclipsed Era, a period where night was powerful yet restrained, dangerous yet orderly. Still, even a queen of dual blood felt the slow transformation of immortality. As centuries passed, she became less mortal, more mythic. Her emotions cooled, her judgment sharpened, and her magic grew colder, but infinitely more precise. Her final transformation. Legends say that the vampire witch queen eventually underwent a second evolution. As her hybrid magic matured, her heart, half living, half undead, began to fail. Not in weakness, but in metamorphosis. She sensed that a higher form awaited her, one that would require a sacrifice, the surrender of her mortal memory. To complete her transformation, she performed a ritual known as the Eclipse Ascension, a spell only she could cast. It required the blood of a vampire king, the tears of a witch seer, a lunar eclipse, and her own soul divided into fragments. When the ritual ended, she rose not as a hybrid, but as a primordial night sovereign, a being who transcended both witchcraft and vampirism. She became an entity of perpetual dusk, her form drifting between shadow and substance. Her mind retained only fragments of her old self, but her loyalty to her kingdom remained. Some claim she departed to wander the astral realm. Others believe she merged with the night itself, becoming an eternal guardian. But the Umbral Court insists she is not gone, only waiting for the next eclipse, the moment when night grows thin and the world needs her again. 6. Legacy of the Vampire Witch Queen. Her legacy reshaped every corner of nocturnal magic. Witches fear her, yet secretly honor her for proving that magic is not limited by birth. Vampires revere her as a mother of unity, a queen who gave structure to chaos. Mortals tell stories of a night queen whose eyes glowed like twin eclipses, and whose voice commanded both spell and fang. Most importantly, she left behind the Crimson Codex, a spellbook that can be read only by those with the courage to accept both light and darkness within themselves. It contains her final teachings. Magic is not life or death, witch or vampire. Magic is the will that shapes the night. Her legend endures not because she ruled with power, but because she proved that the boundaries between worlds are only as real as we allow them to be. She remains, even now, the ultimate symbol of forbidden transformation, the magic of the vampire witch. The vampire, which is an entity born at the crossroads of two primordial forces, arcana and bloodlight, and the magic she wields is unlike anything possessed by mortals, witches, or even ancient vampire lords. Her power is not merely a blend of witchcraft and vampirism. It is the alchemical metamorphosis of both, creating a new class of sorcery entirely. To understand her magic is to understand contradiction made manifest, creation forged through hunger, illumination born from darkness, and life shaped through death's own shadow. The magic of the vampire, which is feared, coveted, and forbidden across kingdoms, for its nature does not obey the rules of witchcraft or the laws of vampiric dominion. It answers only to its bearer, and even then, only partially. Origins of the hybrid sorcery. The origins of vampire witch magic lie in a forgotten catastrophe known as the Eclipse Ritual, a convergence in which a coven of witches attempted to seal away a vampiric brood that had nearly conquered their land. With the moon eclipsed and the veil between life and death thinning, the witches cast a spell meant to bind the vampires for eternity. But the magic backfired. Its power was too large, its intention too absolute. Blood met spellcraft in a collision that shattered the arcane flow of the region. The barrier they created collapsed, imploding into a storm of spectral fire that consumed both witch and vampire alike. Yet from the ashes, a new being emerged. The first vampire witch, a lone survivor who carried within her veins the fused essence of both orders. She discovered that within her blood pulsed two currents of power: the disciplined, elemental forces of witchcraft and the predatory, immortal strength of vampiric nature. These energies did not conflict but coiled around each other, opposites magnetized into unity. She named this fusion Blood Arcana, the foundation of all magical arts known to her kind. Over centuries, those who attempted to replicate her nature through forbidden rituals, blood pacts, or dark alchemy found themselves twisted or destroyed. Only a few succeeded, and each became a legend in their own right. Their magic, while diverse, shared unbreakable laws rooted in the original hybridization. The three pillars of vampire witch magic. Although the power of the vampire witch is vast, it can be understood in three fundamental pillars: bloodlight, nocturne sorcery, and arcane vitae. Each pillar represents a facet of a hybrid identity, and together they form a spellcraft capable of breaking natural boundaries. 1. Bloodlight, power drawn from life's essence. Bloodlight is the first and most feared field of vampire witch magic. In its simplest form, it is the manipulation of life essence, the raw vital energy contained in blood. To vampires, blood is sustenance. To witches, it is a potent magical catalyst. But to a vampire witch, blood is a conductive medium, a living spellbook, a reservoir of power, and a malleable force capable of reshaping the material world. Bloodlight magic allows the vampire witch to see the history of a bloodline by tasting a single drop, heal mortal wounds, knitting bone and sinew with crimson energy, create blood sigils, glowing runes that store spells for later release, command beasts and lower vampires, bending them with silent force, forge astral chains, binding spirits or hostile magic to her will. The most advanced bloodlight spell is known as Crimson Genesis, a ritual through which the vampire which can temporarily create a being of blood formed from her own aura, a guardian, a spy, or a weapon of living crimson. Such constructs dissolve when their purpose is complete, flowing back into the earth as a harmless red mist. Yet bloodlight comes with a cost. The more the vampire which uses it, the more she risks fragmenting her own essence. For blood is life, and to expend too much is to weaken the boundaries between self and shadow. 2. Nocturne sorcery, spells woven from darkness. Nocturne sorcery is the vampiric half of the vampire witch's magic. It is the art of manipulating darkness, not merely the absence of light, but the living shadow that clings to all things. While vampires use darkness instinctively for stealth, strength, and survival, a vampire which can shape it like clay. Nocturne sorcery includes shadowmancy, the bending of shadows into tangible forms such as blades, barriers, or serpentine tendrils. Nightstep, the ability to pass through one patch of darkness and emerge from another. Eclipsing veil, a cloak of supernatural obscurity that erases the caster's presence from sight, scent, and sound. Dream drifting, the infiltration of sleeping minds through the thin veil of night. But the most feared of all nocturne sorcery is Umbral Dominion, a spell that turns an entire region into eternal twilight. Under this gloom, the vampire which becomes nearly unstoppable, for the darkness itself becomes her ally, whispering the movements of intruders and lending strength to her spells. Unlike Bloodlight, however, nocturne sorcery does not drain life. It feeds on the ambient shadows of the world. But this, too, carries a danger. The deeper a vampire which draws from darkness, the closer she becomes to losing her physical form and dissolving into the night itself. 3. Arcane Vitae, Life Magic Rewritten. Arcane Vitae is the witchcraft aspect of the vampire witch's magic. While Bloodlight manipulates life essence directly, Arcane Vitae governs the laws and flows that shape life, fate, nature, and transformation. This power allows vampire witches to cast spells that no vampire could ever master, and that most witches would find too volatile to control. Arcane Vitae includes growth magic, accelerating plants into monstrous or protective shapes. Alchemy of the flesh, enabling temporary transformations, wings, claws, or enhanced senses. Fate threading, where threads of destiny are glimpsed and gently nudged. Blood alchemy, the refining of liquids, herbs, and minerals into enchanted potions. Spirit channeling, inviting ancestor or lunar spirits into temporary communion. One of the highest forms of arcane vitae is soul binding, a ritual that allows the vampire witch to link her essence to an object, place, or individual. This can form eternal guardianships, protective wards, or even magically bound alliances. Arcane Vitae is the most stable of the magic pillars, but it demands great patience and discipline. Unlike the raw hunger of Bloodlight or the instinctive pull of nocturne sorcery, Arcane Vitae requires intellectual precision, an awareness of underlying metaphysical structures. It is the witch part of the vampire which that allows her to maintain control over the chaos within her. The principle of dual breaths, a unique ability possessed by all vampire witches, is known as the principle of dual breaths. It is the ability to breathe both arcane energy and life essence simultaneously. While ordinary witches cast spells with mana and vampires feed through blood, a vampire which can inhale arcane currents, exhale blood mists, and weave them into living magic. Dual breaths allows for devastating hybrid spells such as Bloodfire Hex, flames fueled by essence instead of heat. Night Blight, a curse that dims a target's vitality and will. Lunar Thirst, a spell allowing feeding upon ambient lunar energy instead of living beings. This principle is the reason a vampire which does not require constant feeding like a vampire, nor prolonged rest like a witch after crafting spells. She is sustained by the balance of both energies, though imbalance can cause catastrophic corruption, known as arcane collapse. Forbidden arts of the vampire witch. Some powers exist even beyond the three pillars, abilities so dangerous, so destabilizing to the natural world, that even vampire witches rarely speak of them. These forbidden arts include the Heart Sigil Ritual, a spell in which the vampire which brands her own heart with a magical sigil, allowing her to resurrect once even after complete destruction. The cost is immense, a loss of memory, identity, or connection to her past life. Those who undergo this ritual are reborn as living enigmas, often unpredictable and prone to spirals of instability. The Crimson Grimoire. Not a book, but a spell that allows the vampire witch to store memories, spells, and fragments of her soul in living blood. It is said these stored fragments can think, whisper, and interact with the world in subtle ways. Many fear that a Crimson Grimoire can develop a consciousness of its own and turn against its creator. The Solstice Inversion, a spell that lets a vampire witch bend time for a brief moment, reversing a single event, restoring a broken object, or reliving a past heartbeat. Such magic tears at reality, leaving echoes and distortions in its wake. Most who attempt it are consumed by temporal backlash. The ethos and philosophy of vampire witch magic. Unlike typical magical orders bound by tradition or law, the vampire which adheres to a personal philosophy, shaped by her hybrid nature. This philosophy is known as the doctrine of the crimson balance. It states, magic is not a tool, but an extension of the self. Balance between hunger and discipline is essential. Both light and shadow exist to be shaped, not obeyed. Transformation is the ultimate expression of power. The vampire which must forever keep her dual natures in equilibrium. Too much hunger leads to mindless vampirism. Too much discipline leads to hollow witchcraft devoid of vitality. Only in embracing both fully can she achieve mastery. The legacy of vampire witch magic. Over centuries, vampire witch magic has shaped kingdoms, ended dynasties, and created mythic artifacts. From blood-forged crowns to shadow-imbued spell blades, the works of these hybrid sorceresses are legendary. Some kingdoms celebrate them as divine protectors. Others hunt them as abominations. Yet all agree on one truth: the magic of the vampire, which is the future of arcane evolution. It is living proof that power grows not from purity, but from fusion, where two extremes collide and form something greater. Thank you for journeying into the shadowed realm of Vesper thorn, where vampire blood fuels forbidden witchcraft, and every spell reshapes the night. If her dark magic captivated you, be sure to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss our next dive into supernatural lore. Share your thoughts below. Which spell intrigued you most? What mysteries should we uncover next? Your comments help shape future explorations into the eerie, the mystical, and the unknown. Until then, stay curious, stay courageous, and remember, in Vesper thorn's world, even the faintest whisper can awaken powerful shadows.